Lots of people will tell you it's impossible to win when you're betting. If you're betting on something like horse racing, even if you did find a system that was profitable over the longer term, of course your account would be restricted, you'd be banned, you wouldn't be able to place the bet. However, I'm living, breathing proof that that is not the case. And not only that, I have actually managed to win on all 28 races at the Cheltenham Festival. And if you're interested in learning how I did that and what method I used to achieve that amazing result, then just watch the rest of this video. So it's true, I have won on all 28 races at the Cheltenham Festival. Seemingly something that's completely impossible, but I have done it. It's been validated and proofed, and it is in the bag. But it's important to note that this method that I'm going to describe can't guarantee that, and there is an element of skill required. For example, last year I only won on 27 out of 28 races, and the last time I got a clean sweep was back in 2020. There's a lot of 20s in this video for some reason. However, the method is sound, and it is something that isn't promoted particularly well by the industry because ultimately they sort of want you to lose your money as fast as possible, and anything that doesn't allow that naturally won't get much promotion, which is why I do these videos. Even after all the time that I've been doing it, it's still important to get this key point across. Now, one of the things to note is that I can only do this on a betting exchange. It's not possible with a traditional bookmaker. And what I want to explain in this video is how I use the betting exchange, what one is, how this method particularly works, and how I use all of that to my advantage. So let's learn a little bit more about betting exchanges and what I do on them. So when you bet on a betting exchange, there are two options available to you. You can back something or you can lay something. When we place a back bet, we are betting on something to win. And when we place a lay bet, we are betting on something to lose. And both those options are available for you on the exchange. A back bet is very similar to traditional betting that you would have done. If you go to a race course and you want to place a bet with a bookmaker, you'd go up and you back something. You will say, I will have this amount of money on this particular selection. And what the bookmaker will do is they will actually lay that bet to you. So basically, a back and a lay bet are two sides of the same coin. It just depends which side of that bet you are actually on. But in order to understand how we would do that on the exchange, let's place a back and a lay bet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to place a back bet on the betting exchange. And what I'm going to do is go into this horse race and we're going to back this particular runner at odds of 6.6 with £100. And what would happen there is if any of the other horses go on to win this particular race, I will lose £100. However, if this horse goes on to win, I will win £560. That is what we're doing when we're placing a back bet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and do the opposite. I'm going to place a lay bet instead. So we have to cancel that back bet and I'm going to go in and lay £100 at 6.8. And what will happen here is if this horse goes on to lose, we will win the £100 that the backer has actually put down. However, in order to get their money, we have basically had to offer a set of odds, and those odds are 6.8. So as a consequence, if this horse goes on to win, the backer will win, we will lose our lay bet, and we will have to give them £580. So this is where things get really interesting on a betting exchange, because you can actually back and lay the same selection in a market. And you're sort of thinking, well, hold on a second, why would you back something to win and lay something to lose? That doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. But it does if you're on a betting exchange, because what you can actually do is lay at a lower price than you back at, or vice versa, and you can actually generate a profit, which is exactly what we've done on this particular race. You can see that I've laid at 5.6, I've backed at 5.7, and the net effect is that we actually end up with a profit on this particular runner. We have basically netted the difference between the back and the lay price, and that means effectively we have a free bet on this particular selection. If any of the other horses go on to win, we will basically lose nothing, but if our horse goes on to win, we will win this £10 free bet. So this is where things get really clever, because we have that free bet on this particular selection, but if we actually hedge our position, then what we can do is we can win whatever the result before the race has even started. We basically spread that profit across all of the selections within the market. Now we could leave the free bet there, But the problem that we have with that is that it will only get credited to our account if that horse goes on to win. By spreading that profit across the field, we reduce the amount of money that we make, but we will win whatever the result. It doesn't matter who goes on to win this race. We've actually won before the race has even started.
Now then, we're off to Wolverhampton again, and we've got quite a market mover here. Intensifier, 25, 16, 14, 12, now 10 to 1. Intensifier in this, the win, whatever the result with BetAngel handicap. Now that sounds good, doesn't it? Whatever the result, I will win. That's fantastic. Who can lose in this race?
So this is the core of what I'm doing here. I'm basically laying at a lower price than I back at, or backing at a higher price than I lay at, and I'm netting a profit between the back and the lay bets. I am still betting, but just doing it in an unusual way. And it's much more sort of similar to spread betting on financial markets. On financial markets, you'd say, I think the price is going to go up or down. And you can basically do the same thing on a sports market, and in this case, on horse racing, and you net a profit between those two prices. Now, there are a whole number of different ways of doing this, and we're just going to touch the surface on this video. You should watch some of my other videos if you want to see me doing this live. But fundamentally, the situation that we're left with is at the end of this process, we can actually hedge that position and we can win whoever goes on to win this particular race. And more remarkable than that, we can do it before the race has even started. We have netted a profit regardless of who wins, at which point we can sit back and enjoy the racing.
This is going to be furiously run. Here we go then. Cheltenham Festival 2022 roars into life with a sky.
So when I show people what I do, how I do it, and why it works, a lot of people get quite excited, but then they say, well, but I know nothing about horse racing. And the interesting thing is, neither do I. I used to know absolutely nothing. I know a bit more now. But fundamentally speaking, you don't really need to know that much about horse racing. And in fact, it can be a burden if you know too much. And that is because we're trading the sports market like you would trade the stock market. We're going on emotion and opinion. And when we look at horse racing, there's this period just before the race starts where they take the horse out of the stables, that goes into the parade ring, people have a look at it, and if they like the look of the horse, they will probably place a bet on it. If they place a bet on it, then the price gradually, the odds get shorter and shorter, smaller and smaller, and the price moves in that particular direction. However, if they don't like the horse, then they probably won't bet on it, and the odds will move in the opposite direction. The odds will start to drift, they will get bigger and bigger. So your role within this particular strategy is to jump on the back of those trends, to basically exploit the emotion and opinion in the market just before the race has started. And the interesting thing is sometimes it's very easy to spot if they're going to back or not back a particular horse, because when the horses go out of the parade ring and on to the racecourse, sometimes they don't behave themselves. So when you're a bettor or somebody on course or online or wherever they're going to place their bet, they're looking at that horse, they're thinking, well, that horse doesn't look up for it, I'm not going to place a bet on it. And as a consequence, the price on that horse will begin to drift. So yeah, it doesn't involve massive amounts of rocket science, but it is something that you can necessarily exploit with this particular strategy. So when I demonstrated this method, I obviously used the Betfair website. And that was simply because it was easy to understand. You could see exactly what I was doing and the interface was probably familiar with you. However, lots of people now use software like BetAngel, and that is because it can show you all of the information about the market, where all of the bets are within the market. You can plot it on a nice graph, you can get live racecourse data, but you can also fire it up in practice mode so that you can mess around to your heart's content without any risk to your account balance. And obviously using software gives you an advantage over other people that aren't using software. And it's a much more modern way of doing this particular method. So yeah, I suggest that you check out software if you want to do this seriously. So I want to end the video on a sensible and pragmatic note. And that is, don't go out there tomorrow and expect to win on all 28 races at Cheltenham, because it's not going to happen. And if it does, then just phone me and you can work for me. It took me a little while to get to where I am, but I have the skill set now that's perfectly tuned for this. But you're going to have to go through your own journey. But the key reason for doing this video is that betting exchanges really did change the landscape. And for the first time ever, they meant that you weren't going to get limited or restricted if you won, and it was just your skill and knowledge of sport against everybody else. But the problem that we now have is that betting exchanges have been sort of pushed into the background a bit, and everybody tries to get you to bet with a sportsbook or a traditional bookmaker in the traditional method. And as a consequence, that feels to me like we've gone back 40 years, effectively, not moved forward. And therefore, I want to highlight the opportunity that exchanges give, because it really truly is the best way to be able to place a bet on sports. I went through a very long journey, went through all of the pain and heartache that other people have been through to end up in this particular situation. So I want to talk positively about it, because I want to see exchanges thrive in the future. And the fact is that big corporations have much bigger marketing budgets than I do, and therefore lots of people will never get to hear about this opportunity. It's an opportunity that exists, and one that you should take full advantage of.